Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in today's video I just wanted to talk a little bit about essences coming into patch 8.3. Essences are a new way for your class to add passives and active abilities in order to improve and capitalize on your class's gameplay, and sometimes they can be used in order to try to add aspects that your class might be lacking in. For example, if you're a class that loves burst damage and plays well around crit, there's an essence for that. If your class loves haste, there's essences that synergize well together with it. If your class lacks single target, the essence system in a way is a band-aid to address some of the class issues, and vice versa with the AoE department if your class doesn't really do a lot of cleave. In 8.2, Blizzard added the Essence system as a way to kind of band-aid a bunch of classes. As the Azeroth system just was not working, the Essence system needed to be added in order to expand a little bit more, and I feel like it did a decent job for 8.2. If you played on your main character, you were grinding a bunch of essences. You were trying to get the best essences you could for single target, for dungeons, maybe even for PvP. And with so many different avenues on how to acquire essences, whether just through grinding honor in BGs, climbing rating in arenas, doing some of the Mythic Plus dungeons at a certain level, or simply killing a Jara on heroic and or normal for a couple weeks, allows you to unlock essences through many different ways. That means it allows a player to experience all parts of the gameplay. Some parts you like, some parts you don't, but most people are willing to grind out for the must-have essences in order to do top damage. The essences themselves, I would even say, feel pretty good to play with once you acquire even some of the harder ones to grind like Blood of the Enemy. Once you have it in your hands on your character, you're able to do some awesome things. More talents and more builds are now viable because of some of the introductions with these essences. And Blizzard is going to continue adding essences for patch 8.3. However, the biggest issue that most people have with the essence system is that it's far too grindy. I would even say that the essences themselves are grindier than artifact weapons were back in Legion. I know artifact weapons in Legion were pretty grindy, as you had to make sure you get enough AP for every single weapon, and keeping up with multiples of them, especially if you're like a druid for example, that was very challenging. But with how game-changing most of these essences end up being for a variety of different classes, they are basically mandatory. You have to have certain essences, actives and passives, if you do want to do the most damage in a dungeon, in a raid, in PvP, in any aspect of the game. I would say that grinding essences, however, first time around on your main character is not really that much of an issue. If you have a main character and you're willing to put your nose to the grindstone and get the best essences needed, the first time around is really not terrible. However, the essences do not have any alt friendliness, and Blizzard isn't adding any alt friendliness for patch 8.3. That means if you had to grind out Blood of the Enemy Major for your character to get the 50,000 honor, you did it. And if you had to do a little bit of arenas on the side in order to get conflict and strive for a powerful passive, you also ended up doing it in 3 weeks. But you also had to go to Najjar and level up a follower for quite a bit of time before you were able to get rank 3 Lucid, which is mandatory if you want to play your spec at the highest level. The issue with the essences is you have to do all of this, even with Blizzard nerfing the requirements for it, you have to do all of that with all of your alt characters, which isn't enjoyable. Some people have suggested that maybe Blizzard should make essences account bound. Let's say you unlock a rank 3 version of an essence on your main character, so then your alts should be able to get a rank 3 version of this, or maybe there's a way for your main, once you unlock the highest possible level, to purchase it so that your alts have access to it as well. And so far Blizzard hasn't added a single system for 8.3. They did reduce fairly heavily a lot of the requirements needed for these essences, but you still will need to get some of the grinding done, like reputation for revered rather than exalted, which still takes a bit, and you'll need to get only 30,000 honor instead of 50,000, which can still take quite a lot. Especially for anyone who doesn't enjoy PvP, Blood of the Enemy is honestly a grind, and if you don't like that piece of content but you need that essence, the game basically forces you to do something you don't like in order to be able to do better at the game. Patch 8.3 is going to be the very last patch of Battle for Azeroth. We get the Neolotha raid and a little bit of content with some new allied races, and from there on we're waiting patiently for Shadowlands. So with 8.3, maybe 8.3.5 being the very last patch, maybe 9.0 pre-patch for Shadowlands will be the last time we'll be playing in Battle for Azeroth zones with the Battle for Azeroth systems. This is the last patch, and I feel like it's better that this patch was enjoyable rather than non-enjoyable. I think a lot of us can agree that the essences enhance a lot of our classes. Even though they're not specialized for each class and spec, they still do alter how we play our characters in more or less enjoyable ways. The first time you grind these essences on your main character wasn't the worst thing in the world. Yeah, some of them were annoying, and yes, you had to struggle through battlegrounds just to get blood of the enemy, but once you got it, it felt good. You felt like you accomplished something, and it was awesome to experience every little bit of part of the game if you wanted to play your character at the highest level. But once patch 8.3 is here, most people will want to play patch 8.3 content. Let's be honest, it's going to be a little bit silly to join 8.3 and do all this whole setup for N'Zoth, and how we'll have to go to Neolotha, and how we'll be diving into horrific visions, but then you have to go back to Nazjatar because there's an essence from patch 8.2 that you need in order to make your character the best character it can be. On one hand, it's cool that content from previous patches is still relevant to this day. However, not a lot of people are gonna want to do patch 8.2. Most people that play current WoW will want to explore the newest stuff first. And I feel like for anybody who's going to be new at checking out patch 8.3, it's going to be kind of weird to have to go back to older content. I mean, Blizzard is even nerfing the essence that you get from Eternal Palace so that no one has a feeling in the back of their mind come 8.3 that you need to go back to Eternal Palace to get your best signal target essence. Of course, Blizzard is trying to phase that essence from that raid out and are trying to introduce the new essence from the new raid to be the best substitute for single target damage. I feel like this whole essence thing is confusing, but that's what happens when it comes as a band-aid. It wasn't originally in plans in mind with the whole Azeroth and Azerite gear system. But what would be the best way to fix it? Well, we have a lot of different resources, and we have a lot of different quest lines that I think Blizzard could be using with this patch 8.3 in order to allow people to find alternate ways of acquiring these essences. The primary focus of my thought process here is to enjoy this patch rather than find it super grindy, or maybe use other alternative methods to grind these essences than the intended mechanics. In patch 8.3, we'll be collecting a resource from just about every piece of content called Corrupted Memento. You get corrupted mementos from N'Zoth invasions as well as horrific visions, so you'll be getting a lot of these mementos just from about every piece of content. And we'll be using these mementos actively in order to buy upgrades for our gear like sockets, but also transmogrifiable items like a backpack and a mount. Outside of novelties, you'll also be using corrupted mementos to cleanse any gear that is corrupted if you choose to cleanse the corruption. Let's say you got something that has great stats for your character, but the corruption just provides too many negative debuffs. So you decided, I want that gear, but I don't want the corruption. But past that, there's only 4 things that you can do with mementos. What if Blizzard added a system in 8.3 where you can actually use corrupted mementos and farm them up in order to buy upgrades for various essences? Let's say they have some sort of quest line that you have to complete first. I would say the Crucible questline would be the best choice. Crucible questline is from the Crucible Essence, the one flame that you can use for single target for damage or healing for an ally. The quest itself introduces you to the Dragonflights and introduces you to the essences and how they're banded together in the heart of Azeroth, as well as Vexiona. It introduces you to one of the bosses for the brand new raid. So what if they added a requirement where you have to complete the Crucible Essence, which is linked to your necklace level? To get your neck level to 60 will be very easy come patch 8.3, and they'll probably even add more ways for you to catch up with AP. So whether you're a new player or you've been playing the game for a while but you have an alt, everybody will be able to catch up fairly quickly, and all you have to do is run through the quest line that gets all the Dragonflights into Heart of Azeroth. They can even add to the questline that you also have to do the Rathian main quest in order to get the whole N'Zoth invasions kickstarted, as the quests can introduce you to some of the mechanics that you should be paying attention to in this brand new patch. They could even make it something like once you've done both of those quests, then Rathian will have essences that you can buy with corrupted mementos. And since we will be using mementos and gathering a lot of mementos, that will probably be the best currency for people to use to spend to buy specific essences that they need. Yes, it sounds like a grindy system, but I feel like it will be a better alternative than doing a variety of different activities that people might not even enjoy. Honestly, who wants to go back to Nazjatar and grind out the levels for all of your little followers? I would rather dive into a bunch of horrific visions on a character and then work my mementos up until I can buy a rank 3 version of Lucid. I think it'll be a great way for me in order to acquire some of these essences. They can even make it so that you have to buy rank 1, then rank 2, then rank 3, so you have to kind of like, you know, tier them up. But I feel like there needs to be some sort of a system to add us ways to acquire essences through other means that are more relevant with this current patch. So find a way to use the new patch 8.3 content to acquire some of these must-have essences that affect the way our classes feel and play in terms of effectiveness, but also in terms of the smoothness, in some cases, of the playstyle. These essences, and majority of them, are way too integral into our characters as they are, in my opinion, for Battle for Azeroth. And having them gone for Shadowlands will be fine too, but right now they play a very important part. They allow our characters to feel much better in terms of how they play and how they interact and their overall effectiveness within dungeons, raids, or whatever piece of content you're into. At least if I were to be like a game developer or a game designer, that's what I would do with patch 8.3. Somehow find a way to tie essences and find a way to earn them through corrupted mementos, since we'll be collecting a lot of those through horrific visions. Either way, that's gonna stop my rant here, but I wanted to let you guys know my thoughts about essences, and instead of just complaining about it, I do want to offer solutions of how I think they could be reasonably implemented for any catch-up mechanism. Not only would this work as a catch-up mechanism, but this would also be a way for new players that are coming in to check out patch 8.3 to find a way to catch up to everybody, since essences is so integral and integrated into how our characters play. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see all of you in the next one.